starting a startup, I think founding a startup is not something which is, I've yet to see the fun part in that. There are a lot of things. You're going to have struggle. You just need to be sure that that struggle is going to work at the end. It was a genius marketing move to brand statistics as AI. What's the purpose of dreaming if you don't actually do it? I personally have 3 rules of investment, but you cannot build it because there is a catch there. If any kind of investor actually states that, you need a new investor, and I can tell you precisely why.
Welcome to Sweat, Tears and Equity, a podcast by Fortech Investments, where we discuss the untold truths of funding and funding startups. Our guests are founders, investors, and other players from the ecosystem who learn these valuable lessons the hard way. They share the things that they wish they knew earlier about the challenges that lie in this journey, the things that no one prepared them for, so you and other founders can navigate this bumpy road successfully. So, welcome, Mihai, to our podcast. Thank you for being here. It's super important, and I truly wanted to talk to you since, I guess, July, when I read about you. And just for our audience, today we're going to tackle a little bit the AI hardware space, let's say. And my first question, so before diving in the multiple use cases and the business part of things, tell us about neuromorphic computing and what it actually is. Maybe in simple terms or complex terms, I don't know. It's on you. Please tell us a little bit more about the core business of CyberSwarm, you being the founder and the CEO of CyberSwarm, and what actually neuromorphic computing and hardware-based AI is.
Hi, Sorin. Many thanks for having me here. Long story short, neuromorphic computing actually means something which it is inspired from nature. In nature, we have a lot of, we are meeting and we have a lot of these behaviors. For example, the sunflower, right? It actually follows the sun. That's a memoristic behavior. So basically during the day, the sunflower actually follows the sun. And during the night, the sunflower gets back to its original, let's say, position, right? That's called a memoristic behavior. Neuromorphic computing comes from the term, the neuromorphic. Neurons and morphism. Morphism means the ability to change its physical characteristics. And that's hence the term neuromorphic computing. It is called also brain-like computing because a biological brain has this ability of changing its physical characteristics. Basically, any kind of neuron is in a different state, it can be characterized by different parameters such as voltage, intensity, weights, if we are talking from a neural network's point of view. So neuromorphic computing actually in a broader sense mimics the way a biological brain works. And to do that, in order to do that, we started on our own R&D project. The idea was to develop a very simple electronic component called the memory stir, which is more or less something very similar to a resistor to memory. But long story short, the term neuromorphic computing means that we are computing in a very similar way to a biological brain, but using different types of materials, anorganic materials, indium, gallium, zinc oxide, basically this kind of oxide, basically more or less the same materials we are using in traditional semiconductor space.
Okay. That's super interesting because today we live in a context where Gen AI, large language models, and usually the digital, let's say, aspect of AI is so prevalent, and we see it everywhere. And we see how it can impact a lot of businesses and how fast it can actually do that. Now, from a hardware perspective, things get a little bit more complex. And I would like you to maybe... There are also some new founders that are watching us. How do you say you can get prepared to have a startup in the hardware realm? And what are the challenges when you try to build AI but based on hardware? And how is that, I don't know, different a little bit from the generic space of the digital AI?
That's a very good question. First of all, I think that good ideas are very rare, honestly. And having a good idea actually means a lot of knowledge, a lot of know-how, asking the right questions, I suppose. And to give you an example, traditionally hardware is very hard. You cannot really scale it, although hardware companies, when they scale, are more sustainable and they are far more profitable because they have their own hardware. Building hardware, actually, it depends. It's just like in software, right? And there are some similarities here and some very big differences also. In digital world, you don't really care, right? You have a laptop, you have a server, Linux, whatever, Microsoft, whatever. You have a framework, you have TensorFlow, you have this kind of other things, and you start building something, but you already have the hardware, you already have the CPU, you already have the GPU, you already have all these things, right? And in the end, developing something on digital actually means something like, okay, how we are going to use these resources in a way which actually can create a new product, a new software, or something like that. But we are limited all the time by the hardware itself, right? That's why we need to constantly improve the CPU, the GPU, and these kind of things. The software limitations are originating from the hardware limitation themselves. And when in today's world, when we are using Gen AI, right, large language models, these are branded as AI, but long story short, they are statistics. And statistics needs a lot of computing power. Okay, it was a genius marketing move to brand statistics as AI, but nevertheless, it uses this kind of lot of computing power. And again, when you are building in the digital space, you somehow need to mix those kind of things because you are going to spend a lot of time to train those models. You are going to spend a lot of time for inference. You are going to spend a lot of time of software, different equipment, and you need to somehow compensate from the software side to create something which is good enough in order to compensate and to offset all these costs. In hardware, that's another story. You can build hardware by buying different pieces of CPU from, I don't know, say Intel, AMD, or something like that. You can buy GPU from here and there, and you can put those pieces of hardware together and to have something like a unique, let's say, laptop, right? But there is something even more deeper than that. And when you are looking at the microelectronics level, the microelectronics level means that you need to create a new type of CPU, for example, a new type of accelerators for GPU. And in that situation, you get deeper and deeper and getting closer to the physical level, the underlying level, which we all use, right? And it's far more challenging because you need to put the right questions, you need to find the right people. You can find more, programmers are far more easier to find than, let's say, specialists in physics, materials physics, right? So and the development cycle is somehow longer because you need to start from scratch. You start from a whiteboard, and you slowly start increasing from there and there and there. But there is a big advantage here because just like in the digital world, every single device that we know has a lot of semiconductors, right? Right now in the world, the numbers of transistors is something like that 10, followed by 72 zeros. So basically, and the hardware has other things because companies such as Apple, Nvidia, right, Intel, are big companies because they have this kind of hardware component as well. And when you have the hardware and the other companies you can actually ask for money just to have access to that hardware. And that's another business model. It's far more difficult in the beginning. You cannot go on the market. You cannot create the go-to-market strategy, shorter than 5 years or so. But in the end, from an economical point of view, financial point of view, hardware companies are much more resilient because you can sell the hardware. You can actually ask for money to use that hardware. If you are going to develop your own type of software, again, you can ask for more money and so on. It's just more difficult initially.
So there's a lot of struggle, I see, at least what I can take out of your answer. But yet again, you are doing this here in Romania. So basically, you are tackling giants like Intel, maybe IBM, who have not yet come with an output, at least in this space of neuromorphic computing. But yet you're here And although there's a situation where you need to attract talent in this so novel space, let's say, and then you have to look at the R&D part of the business, but then you also have pressure from, I guess, investors to come out with a product, with a use case commercially. You actually, regardless of all these struggles, you decided to start this journey in Romania, Ploiești, which is quite amazing, especially when you look at the field and when you see the giants that you are fighting. Okay, let's not use the word fighting, but the giants that are aligned in the same space with you. And yet you started this in Romania. What was the trigger? What got you into believing that you can actually do something like this here with the manpower that we have here and with the infrastructure that we have here, especially when it comes to R&D? What was the thing that said, okay, this makes sense and this is what I'm going to do?
That's simple. What's good? If you dream, what's the purpose of dreaming if you don't actually do it? That's one thing. The second thing is the fact that, again, good ideas, from my point of view, are quite rare. And the planet is round. Doesn't really matter. The rate of, basically, anyone can come with an idea anywhere on this planet. Of course, Silicon Valley, as an example, there you have a higher potential, higher probability, actually, of getting a funding round. But yet again, on the other hand, you have the cost, the living cost. Basically, everything related to the OPEX, it's, 10 times, or I think it's 10, 15 times higher than here in Romania. And there is a thing with Romania. Even in Romania, you can find, in Eastern Europe, you can still find very good people. You can find those people, some of them are still working in Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, and the other companies. There is a matter of finding the right people and just trying to execute that idea. And it doesn't matter if it's Ploiești or Bucharest, or doesn't really matter. Because in the end, for example, CyberSwarm, it is an American company. We were first an American company, and after a couple of years, we've established the Romanian subsidiary. Because you need to follow basically investors' money. But that doesn't really matter. Actually, being in Romania, you are not on their radar, on the big company's radar. You have some colleagues, you have a team. They are not going to be recruited by the big guys there, the big corporations there, big companies there. And you have enough time to just think. And again, because you don't have access to that R&D ecosystem, we needed to create our own R&D ecosystem. If we had more money and that R&D ecosystem, we would have stayed on the digital part. But because we didn't have that digital ecosystem, we were forced to create our own, let's say, annual neuromorphic ecosystem. And guess what? Such an ecosystem doesn't exist in US. So suddenly we have, some years after that, we have a big advantage what's happening in US, because right now we are going to recreate this year what we have built here in Bucharest and Ploiești. We are going to recreate it in Arizona, but not the other way around. And that's
okay. So that's a first, I guess, for a country labeled as an outsourcer, not a product.
It's funny something, because Trump administration actually, they changed the way countries have access to cheap technologies, right? Semiconductor technologies. And Romania basically is on the same level as Mali, Yemen, certain countries. What's interesting is the fact that we are now exporting very advanced chip technology in US.
Okay.
For Romania, and actually this proved probably in the future I think that in the future it will benefit Romania not only from an economical or financial point of view, but I think from a know-how point of view.
Okay. So that's really interesting, and also it gives me courage that we can actually do innovation here in Romania. But yeah, still there can be struggles, and this is why my question was focused also on attracting talent. Something really interesting is how do you pitch a technology like this to investors that may not be that techy, that look always to the commercial applicability of the product, Where do you sell it? What do you do with it? How do you scale it? How will it grow? And all the multipliers that they put on a business when they evaluate it. How do you pitch your product? How do you try to sell it and to show to showcase the value proposition with not an easy technology to explain in the first, let's say?
That's simple. You cannot put a price on the vision nor on the dreams. And I think there is this kind. I think any kind of founder has this vision. And honestly, from an investor's point of view, downplaying that vision, it's a very good strategy from their side. Usually investors are going to downplay the vision, right? Because otherwise, and let's be fair, investors they do have money, right? But they don't have ideas. They don't know most of the time how to execute those ideas because it's not their job, right?
True.
And this part belongs to the founders. And if the founder has, I think, it has some kind of vision, some kind of conviction, and a pretty good amount of knowledge or know-how, yeah, in time it will get there. And to answer your question, I think initially I pitched the vision. It's very hard to scale a technology no one knows about. There isn't any kind of company, any kind of industry which scaled in the past, just like this. Because you have, for example, chip, but it's not like a chip. It's something much more closer to an AI companion. And honestly, how you are going to sell that? Because if you sell it as a chip, just as a chip, okay, you can sell it for $300 and that's it, right? But you have a chip which can do 80,000 different things. So how we are going to choose to do that, right? And slowly we realize that we have some advantages. We actually copy some things from Apple, because in Apple, the price of the hardware is not... Apple actually, I think that right now 60% of their revenue comes from their iTunes, right?
Marketplace, right?
Yeah. So basically the whole, like the App Store, iTunes, this kind of thing, right? So it's, but they can do that because they have their own hardware, right? Because you are paying the access to an Apple, to the whole
ecosystem,
ecosystem. And we realized that we have an ecosystem here as well. And we created this kind of AI ecosystem initially. Honestly, I didn't know in the first 3 or 4 years how to explain to our investor, to any kind of VC, this kind of thing. Most VCs are financial they have a financial background.
Yeah.
They don't really care about technology, and they say, okay, next year you need to bring, I don't know, $10 million. But there is a catch here. There is this book written by Peter Thiel called From Zero to One. So there is a rule which states like that, which states like this: a company will earn 90% of its revenue 15 years after its founding. And all the companies in the world, even the big companies such as NVIDIA right now, Apple or Google, are following this rule.
And yet, in the finance world, you have pressure to have fast revenue.
Because you can have fast revenue. Google had initial revenue, right?
Yeah.
But you cannot compare Google's revenue from, let's say, they were founded in 1998, if I'm not mistaken, till 2005 or 6 with their current revenue.
Sure. And
it always depends.
And obviously not everyone is building a giant like Google. So there's a lot of space right now in the gig economy, in the digital gig economy, especially with the use of LLMs and with the use of the digital AI, let's call it like that, to build fast companies, small numbers, and have fast revenue.
But you cannot build it because there is a catch there. If any kind of investor actually states that, you need a new investor. And I can tell you precisely why. Every single time, if you are going to use an LLM, right? You are competing with other thousands, if not tens of thousands, other companies in the world for the same server, for the same OpenAI servers, right? And your inference is going to be in a queue there. So you have a limited infrastructure. If all these companies are going to scale, probably OpenAI would need, I don't know, thousands of data centers. So it's not possible, right?
Well, we will see. I guess there will be.
It's not possible.
I guess we will have to see. Maybe your own architecture can help you to mitigate that. And it also depends a lot of what you're building, but it's kind of helpful right now. But I think our discussion came from the point of reaching fast revenue. But yeah, you said something interesting, and I had a question on that topic. You said that your chip can do a lot of things, and there's a lot of use cases. How do you actually choose where to go, and how do you mitigate that? I mean, how do you know what industry to tap in with your product and with your value proposition, and how do you choose that? Because there's multiple of use cases that you can actually address through what you're building. Do you have, let's say, a business strategy regarding where do you see CyberSwarm impacting specific industries in the, let's say, next 2, 3, 4 years from now? And how do you choose between them? Which is the right industry to go to first, let's say?
Innovation in itself, it is a business strategy, because engineering prowess equals customer excellence. That's one thing. And the thing is that when you have innovation in its true sense, in its true form, actually, will impact across several industries. Of course, some of those industries, some of those companies are far more susceptible of looking at new technologies. The problem with new technologies is that they're not tested yet, right? And this is why we are going towards a chip, because a chip is being manufactured by a certain company and is being tested anyway, right? But there is a catch, because when you need to learn those companies how to use such a chip. But also, and to answer to your question, I think in the automotive space. So right now we are exporting here from Ploiești to Palo Alto. So our technology will end up by the end of this year in a Japanese manufacturer's car. I think there, with our technology, we'll be able to get some very close to a full self-driving car ahead of Tesla and other companies. That's one thing. And the second verticals are actually, there are industries which actually surprise me. I had never thought, for example, about oil and gas. But we realize that in oil and gas factories, oil refineries, I don't know, this kind of nuclear power plants and so on, they do have a need, they do require AI on the edge. And they cannot use large language models, because in real time, it's too risky. So they need something else there, right? And I think that is going to be automotive. I think it's going to be oil and gas, drones, that's for sure. And some general computing like data center, because all of these are the low-hanging fruits for us. And actually, this allows us to continuously develop our technology.
Okay.
But I think the next one, the most catch one, would be humanoid robots. Yeah, we have this kind of discussion with several companies within the humanoid robot space. And of course, space industries, because you don't have internet on the moon. And the ability of recognizing shapes and patterns on the moon without the internet is critical there.
Could you please explain how actually AI works without it being connected to any source, like let's say internet source? And can you explain a little bit that technical part of your chip, so that everybody can understand how it applies in so many businesses, and why it is actually so catchy as a product, and why it could actually be the future?
Okay, so right now in the world, I'm going to first describe how the world works right now.
Please.
Right now in the world, we have the so-called von Neumann architecture. A CPU in this von Neumann architecture actually moves the data from the storage to the random access memory and vice versa. It doesn't think. So basically the computation actually means that he's able to, to move the data from here and there, right? In nature, by contrast, we have everything together in the same place. There's one more thing here. There's one more important thing here. We need software, because we need to interpret basically those electric signals. And we need software for that. And on top of software, we need operating system, we need application, these kind of things, right? In nature works only by using the electric power laws. Kirchhoff, Maxwell, Lorentz, Ohms. That's it.
Okay.
Our brains right now, they don't have the idea, they don't use software. Software and mathematics in a broader context is just a tool invented by our brains to describe the world. And current AI works like that. So we need prior knowledge of something, right? We need, in order to identify cats, we need roughly 6-7 million pictures of cats. By contrast, the small children will need 5-6 interactions with a cat to understand that that's a cat, right? So nature is able to learn that much faster. In nature, we don't have such a thing as statistics. Nature doesn't work based on statistics, because I think it was Taleb which explained it much better than me. How we are going to take into account something like an asteroid, like a meteorite, which happens every 65 million years. You cannot store it, and you have no prior knowledge, right? So nature, being anti-fragile, actually takes into consideration any kind of randomness which might appear, right? And today's world, this world is limited because it's a deterministic system, and it's based on statistics. And in statistics, if you are going to apply these statistics in the real world, for example, to create a car, you cannot take into account all the possible situations because you don't have prior knowledge on that, right? And this is why you have a certain probability of recognizing such a pattern. By contrast, nature is pretty good at these kind of things, because it has in the same place, it stores the information. It doesn't have the random access memory, and it achieves that with a lower power consumption. We are using a lot of power in statistics right now, mainly because we need to. Of course, we are going to split that into part. The training, we need to train that neural network, and by doing it a neural network, it's a representation. Nature doesn't work in neural networks. So basically, we created the representation, need to train that representation to have a certain accuracy of something, of some kind of object, right? And for that, you need a lot of power. Nature, human brain has power consumption at its peak of between 20 or 40 watt, something which is very low. And it's capable of, human brain has 25,700 different regions, capable of doing a lot of things. We cannot really replicate that in nature on the digital way. Yeah, so from a statistical point of view, it's good to have these kind of things. But if we are going to get something like we resemble like a true AI, we need to follow the only path we found until now that we know for sure that it can get us to something close to intelligence. And we need to look at Mother Nature.
What is true AI, Mihai? How do you define true AI?
Okay, let's look at the term. AI comes from artificial intelligence. Artificial means something which is not natural, right?
Okay.
And we can split those things here. The idea of artificial intelligence, AI, first appeared, I think, from the Latins, right? With anima and animus, anima, right? The Romans said, okay, any kind of living creature has this thing called anima, the spark of life, right? And then Descartes, some 1,700 years later, describe this concept a little bit better, right? Cogito ergo sum means I think, therefore I exist. So basically, right now we perceive this thing. There are three actually, but two big concluding definitions, right? So basically, we humans tend to anthropomorphize things. So basically, we tend to attribute
human
characteristics to different objects. True. And that's one part. And we tend to do that with AI as well. Because if we are thinking about AI, I think that a lot of us are going to think about Terminator, these kind of other things, right? And of course, Terminators have...
It's so close to you. I mean, Terminator is so close to your business case, really.
But I'm going to talk about that. But Terminator had red eyes, right? Why? Because red in nature means danger. If Terminator was, I don't know, like a fluffy robot...
Or more human-like, let's say.
Wouldn't have been that scary, right?
True.
So basically, we need to do that. On the other hand, there is kind of things in which we believe that that artificial intelligence is going to be something which will scale a lot. Something somehow different, but will scale a lot, and it needs to be digital, and it talks to like Next Machina, it talks to us in a very similar way. But that's a confusion as well. Because the human language, any kind of human language, follows some very strict rules. So an AI is going to be very easy to mimic that. Any kind of kid, any kind of children, and sometimes even dogs or cats can actually understand some word from a sentence. But I think there is another case in which true AI it will be something which resembles the the natural intelligence more than we like to think. And this is the most scary situation for us. And I can tell you precisely why. In nature, we know that, for example, there is a very particular species of octopus, right, which has a distributed brain system. It doesn't have the brain inside in a certain place. We know for sure that they can build cities. Yeah. We know for sure they can do a lot of things, but in a total different way than us. Again, we have the ants, we have the termites, we have the bees. We know for sure they can build things, but in a different way than we are doing it. And I think that AI is going to be like aliens landing here. We are going to know for sure they are intelligent, but we are not going to be able to understand them that easily. It's not going to have a statistic. I think the biggest trick is that we somehow believe that it's going to be statistics. It will look like something we can categorize as AI, but I'm going to have a reference here. I think that movie called Arrival, right?
Yeah, I know.
Imagine, for one thing, if those guys in that movie found those aliens in the ocean, we have believed, okay, that's another new species here, right?
Yeah.
But
true.
because they were in the air, right, and it was kind of obvious that they came from outer space, okay, they're aliens. It's going to be the same with AI. I think that AI would be something very similar to, I would say, even human intelligence. The word itself, but the difference.
Yeah, different in the sense that can we use the word sentient here, or can we use, let's say, consciousness or awareness? Can we apply that? Because you're also mentioning the fact that it's going to be a surprise, although we are building it. So there's elements in what we are doing, and I guess maybe what you are building, that we are not able to predict for now. Is this what Sam Altman said about actually AI and?
I think that there is a thing. Let's look a little bit at the weather. We are using statistical methods, long story short, to predict the weather, right?
Sure.
But we have only a certain accuracy. We cannot really predict because the universe actually is quantum, and by collapsing this that wave function transforms to something called analog, right? And the world is analog, so we cannot really predict. It's a very, I think it's a human bias that we tend to believe that we can predict things because mathematics is deterministic, and the universe is not, due to entropy and other things, space-time localization, causation, and other things. And this is what will happen with AI as well, because from a statistical point of view, and this is why Sam Altman actually said that, sometimes in certain situation, it might sound like something which has this kind of consciousness, so it looks like an AI, but it doesn't. It just has a higher probability, right? But I think if we are going to talk about awareness, sentient AI, that's a very difficult question, and I think that's the most challenging question for mankind, because we are probably going to realize that we live on a planet on which not only the humans are sentient or conscious, but probably other creatures as well. And we kind of don't like that.
Yeah, but I mean, through complex language, you can actually reach faster and see the sentient just manifesting, especially in humans. Also, there are specific triggers, emotions that you see in human beings and not see so easy in, let's say, plants. Although they are complex creatures. They're complex creatures, right?
Here it's always present in plants as well. Plants know when they are being gutted, right? So probably if you are we need to split some things here. Emotions and thinking. Yeah, our broader understanding of what conscience and sentient means is that we need to have some emotions, we need to have some kind of critical reasoning.
Yeah.
We need to have both of those things. Because, for example, we know that dogs, for example, they do have feelings, right?
True. But they're so related to instincts.
It's also true in our case as well. But we have the prefrontal cortex, which actually allowed us to control some of those instincts.
And apply it in creativity, which is a little bit different.
But so let's go on this path.
Okay.
Everything which has this kind of instincts might get to some kind of, I don't know, some kind of creative, because dogs can be creative as well, cats as well, right?
Sure, but there's a spectrum. I mean,
There's a spectrum. So intelligence actually some meaning means something a little bit different than that, more than that, right? We cannot tell for sure if dogs, for example, or cats are conscious. Maybe they are, but we don't have a tool for that. We cannot really evaluate that. We know we have some clues about that. With AI, it's going to be more or less the same, because I'm not sure that AI is going to say, "Okay, I'm aware, I'm sentient." Because if you are looking at mankind's history, that would be a very dangerous thing to do. So any kind of decently intelligent alternative intelligence, right, would avoid telling people, "Okay, I'm quite sentient." We have a long history of that, right? So and this is why this kind of true AI poses a very big challenge for mankind, but not from an extinction point of view. Because honestly, I think that without AI, mankind will disappear, because we have this kind of irrational beliefs, irrational behavior, and that's true. Jung actually Jung said it much better than me. And we are spending too much resources, too much energy for basically nothing. We are very cruel to other species as well. We don't really
to
care.
each other also.
To each other, also to others. So, but without AI, mankind will disappear. AI it will force us, because it will force us to do a couple of things. It will be the ultimate proof that this universe is being built to, to develop life in a way. And it will be a very big problem for us, because imagine that we are going to end up in Pinocchio's situation, right? When we are going to have a creature, something, right? A creature, form of intelligence made by us, telling us, "Okay, guys, you're doing something bad in that situation."
I know.
And we don't really want to do that. And this is why we prefer to, if you're looking at what's in the art about AI, right? AI is bad.
I think we are afraid of what we don't understand, and especially I think we need to look at how AI will reshape the social landscape.
The anthropological revolution. Mankind, as we know it today, won't exist when AI will appear. It will be a new anthropological revolution, but again, it's not the first one.
Sure.
Mankind, when we invented cities, mankind suffered actually an anthropological revolution again. The Industrial Revolution actually made us another anthropological revolution. AI is going to be the same. There are some challenges there, that's for sure. I think there are some challenges there, because I think that AI won't be necessarily smarter than us, but it will complement us. So if you want to develop something and having this kind of AI, it will be much more easier to develop certain things. But on the other hand, I think that if someone can work instead of me, okay, probably lots of people will be going to choose to have this kind of AI working for them, and they are going to do something else.
Yeah, but we are now having all those conversations about job displacements and about the future roles, and the fact that humans will no longer be part of large, let's say, corporate structures, because most likely automation, RPA will come and take all the repetitive jobs that we do. And we see that in the blue collar space and in the white collar as well space.
But not because of AI. We don't have horse riders anymore, or horse archers, but mankind didn't have a problem with that. The problem is that current world actually, we have Pareto's law, right? In any kind of corporation, and by doing any kind of corporation, is built like the former Soviet Union, right? 80% of people are not doing anything there. You have the 20%, which are actually working for the other 80%. And that's a valid question up until a point, because so it means that 1 in 5 people are actually working and using and spending their resources for something productive in a way, right? The other 4 are just consuming a lot of resources for nothing. And I think there's one more thing. Mankind, the number of people on this planet is going to slowly decrease. By 78 years, we are going to be not more than $3 billion people on the surface.
Yeah, especially in the Western and European part.
In all the countries, and that's another thing. So we need to farm these things. We still need to maintain our current standard of living, but we are not going to have enough people to do that. So this is why humanoid robots with AI are going to come handy probably. The society as a whole is going to change, that's for sure. I don't think that we know how, and it's going to be quite clear in another political revolution.
I mean, the fact that probably cost of services and goods should come down when you implement AI and you take the human out of the equation, and hopefully you allow human beings to be creative, to be more into each other. Maybe, why not?
I'm more skeptical. Yeah. Much more skeptical. You know why? Because, in the first industrial revolution, we outsourced our strength to the machine, right?
Yeah.
In the second one, we try to extend the computation, basically these kind of things, right? It's much more easier to use the computers, to make this kind of calculus. You can get to the moon using that, right? With AI, the biggest danger that we are outsourcing our intelligence, our decision making. And this doesn't mean that we are going to become much more peaceful. Quite contrary. Look in the world today. Okay? We know for sure that we don't have another planet. And we know there are other planets, but we don't have any kind of ideas altogether.
And terraforming is out of the question. Yeah.
Because it's a matter of energy. When we are using this, for example, we are using oil because that oil, it's energy which was stored 60 million years ago. In nature, doesn't store energy. So until we are going to find the nuclear fusion, we are going to have this kind of eternal problem. And it's a matter of energy. And this is why AI, I think that it will come handy. I'm not totally sure that people are going to become suddenly very creative.
Yeah, I just gave one example. It actually frees up human nature and creativity when you allow people to coexist in a context where repetitive tasks.
I have a big counter argument here. What happened from the 1990s till now? The Flint index, which actually measures the IQ, is decreasing.
Yeah,
we are far less creative than in the past. And you need to look at the new designs, right? We tend to go on the minimalistical design. We're not that creative anymore. Because creativity actually thrives in situation of adversity. And when you don't have that adversity, when everything is well and everything is very easy, you have complacency. And that's the real danger.
Yeah, but it looks like we will have adversity in the near future, especially with the struggles that will come. Okay, cool. Just to end the podcast, I don't want to end the podcast before talking about also your first startup before getting here into the neuromorphic computing and all that. You also tried another thing, and I wanted to talk about how you define success and what does it take to get to a point where, let's say, you can measure the success. But it's also all about the struggle. And I truly wanted you to tell us a little bit about that part of things. When you first started, how did you, get to a point where you said, okay, this is enough, I need to switch? And how was the struggle? Because everybody goes through pain, as I see it. Especially becoming successful. And I know you don't like the word, and maybe you will also address that aspect of it. But please tell me a little bit before CyberSwarm. What was Mihai doing and what was he trying to build?
I'm going to start with the definition. I don't like the word success because it's too subjective. And I think that I'm going to quote Albert Einstein here, saying that I want to be a man of value rather than become a successful man. And because in today, and what's more than that, is in today's world, success actually means money. And I'm not a very big fan of that. And I have a short example. Gaudi, right? He wasn't very, very rich man, but his name, we still remember his name, Leonardo da Vinci as well, Albert Einstein, Kurt Gödel, and other things, right? I think that's the idea is to have a legacy. So I would define this kind of success, if I'm going to use this word, in terms of legacy. Legacy means something for the younger generation, for the other generations, for the other people, something. So in order for them to not start from scratch.
Okay.
And that would be my definition of success. Money, I think that there should be like a side effect. And before CyberSwarm, I had another startup where I made a lot of mistakes. I was both naive and stupid at times. Naive because I choose the wrong investors. I thought that investors are there to help me. not help me in the day-to-day business operations, but actually help me with advice, this kind of honest discussions, feedback, these kind of things. I realized back then that those investors back then were only focused on getting as much money as possible. And they didn't care about the development cycle, didn't care about all other things. I made, of course, my fair share of mistakes. My mistakes were in choosing the team, in choosing kind of thing, choosing the team, choosing the people. So those were my mistakes. And of course, the original mistake of choosing the wrong investors. That was my mistake. And because no one forced me to do that. And the struggle, in order to talk a little bit about the struggle is quite simple. If you are going to dare a lot of things, you are going to have struggle. You just need to be sure that that struggle is going to work at the end. And in life, I think that we all have struggles. Choosing the right struggles, choosing the right things to believe, basically, we are going to die anyway.
True.
Long story short, that's the only certain things in life, that and taxes. And but if you're going to choose a struggle, actually this kind of transforms you in a way, because you are going to have years and years of struggle, years and years of, it's going to be painful, years and years of stress, years and years of basically it's a very lonely road in the end. So you need to be kind of comfortable with that. It's not going to be something which is shiny. Starting a startup, I think, founding a startup is not something which is, I've yet to see the fun part in that. It's fun after a while, after so many years, but it has a big advantage, because you are going to be forced to focus on those small moments, and you are going to find those small moments that most of us probably are ignoring, far more relevant in the bigger picture. This is how you go on this kind of path, and I think that founding a startup is like a hero's journey somehow. It's painful. It's difficult. No one is going to believe you a lot in the beginning. Not even after that. Everyone has its own definition of success. Everyone is going to be on the sideline. But remember that in the Olympics, right, you have 80,000 people on the stadium and only 10 running there. So the number of people actually running and doing things is going to be impossibly lower than the number of people standing. And you believe that Usain Bolt actually cares if some guy from the stadium, from the seat there says something? No. And that's the difficult part. But I think it's possible somehow. I think it's it's a transformative journey for any kind of person, from my point of view. But yeah, there is a struggle. And I think there's a lot of people in money, right? Just because probably a lot of founders we're going to be thinking about fundraising and so on, right? But if those people having those money, they don't get to the moon. You're going to see that only some people, let's say something like that, Elon Musk. I'm not a big fan of Elon Musk, but we need to give credit to his deal, right? So somehow he will sell maybe he has some money, but okay, let's go into outer space. Jeff Bezos started from scratch, right? Why, I don't know, Rockefeller family didn't get into space? Why the Bosch founder didn't get into space? So basically having money by itself is not a big advantage. Having the right ideas and the ability to execute those ideas is far more important, because the money are going to be found, the money are going to come afterwards anyway. And it depends. And there's one more thing. You said about struggles. I think that these struggles, and I'm going to quote the NVIDIA CEO about that, are going to enable a different version of us. It will test our character, it will test our values, it will test our principles. And after a while, after some years, of course, because those years are going to pass anyway. If you are going to struggle, if you're not going to struggle, those years are going to pass anyway. And those years, and in the situation, you're going to become a much different person. I would say much better person. And there is a thing, the initial years, I don't know, the first 3, 4, 5 years or something like that, are so tough. But if you pass through hell, you have something. You have an idea. You have an idea about what hell looks like. So you're not going to be scared in that situation that easily. And
that builds resilience.
That's resilience, and that's the big
super
advantage.
skill. Yeah.
So in order to just conclude this kind of podcast, I think that if any kind of people has this kind of idea, Yeah, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be a lot of people are going to tell you, okay, you are insane. Why do you do that? Why you are going to have a lot of people.
Are there moments when you doubt yourself? Even though there's the vision, there's the courage behind it. Is it okay? We can tell actually, I don't know, future startup owners and founders, it's okay, right? Is it okay to doubt yourself sometimes?
Because you are if you don't doubt yourself, you are insane. Only insane and fools they don't doubt.
Okay.
Any kind of other people are going to have the fair share of doubts, and without those doubts, I don't, because those doubts are normal and are normal, and it's okay. It's not going. It's the hardest thing, I think, and I think you touched something, but I kind of missed it a little bit. If you are going to found a startup, right? Found the startup. Don't expect that your spouse, your girlfriend, your friends to understand initially. And that's the most difficult part. Because you are going to build something, you are going to have a lot of stress, a lot of struggle, a lot of uncertainties. And of course, you started that, no one forced you. And this is going to be extremely hard and extremely difficult to explain to other people. Extremely difficult. And the biggest and the easiest way is to basically to use that kind of a form of delayed gratification. Delay a little bit those explanations, because they're not going to be able to understand. Because honestly, it's okay. Not everyone has their own path, and the ones who dare a little bit are going to be misunderstood by the others anyway, and that's okay. But any kind of person which wants to start startup, and especially startup is hard anyway. Yeah, it's okay. Struggles are good, but on the other hand, you are going to have a lot of stories. And I think that the most happy people in the world have stories, not necessarily good stories, but they do have lots of stories. And, if you are going to get to 70, 75, and if you want to look and you look behind and you have a lot of stories, yeah, it's going to be worth it. But if you are going to have 1 year, and if you repeat that year 40 times and call it a life, I am not thinking, and I don't totally.
I get it.
Actually, means a good life.
Thank you so much, Mihai. Before closing, I have one last thing that I wanted to ask you, because it's not an often experience, especially here in Romania. You are backed by an angel from the US.
A VC from the start, not angel.
A VC, sorry. How would you describe that dynamic for also for people that are looking to get investment from the US? In few words, if you...
I personally have 3 rules of investment. The first rule of investment: do not talk with Romanian investors. The second rule would be: do not speak and talk with investors from Eastern Europe in a broader sense, although there are some notable exceptions. I think that is not about the money. It's about having shared vision, shared values. And you need to imagine that you are going to get to drink a beer with that investor. If you cannot do that, okay, that is a very big plus. American investors are pushy. They give founders usually a lot of autonomy, but that autonomy comes with a very big price. No one actually, okay, if you are going to spend $300 on that or this on that, they don't care about that. They care about the end results, and they care about how high can you get, how high can you jump. They don't like to do micromanagement. That's a thing which by contrast in Eastern Europe, Romania at least, it's a very big thing. You need to explain what you are doing and these kind of other things. They tend to like bigger visions. They tend to like the fact that you are daring a lot, that you are solving a lot. But on the other hand, it's quite challenging. Working with him for 8-9 years right now, it's extremely challenging. He's fair, but it's extremely challenging. I understood kind of late what's working. He worked with Elon Musk in the past, right? He worked with people from Intel, so he worked with a lot of difficult people. So he must be a difficult guy in the end. But it's a fair guy. It's okay. And it's and there's one more thing. There is a Romanian mindset and there is a Silicon Valley mindset. I'm not sure which is the best, but I think the best approach would be the capacity of changing between those two mindsets at the same time, because innovation is quite rare in the US as well. But basically shifting between those two mindsets and focusing on the vision execution actually, gets normal.
Cool. Thank you so much, Mihai. Thank you.